What's going on, everybody? We're previewing the prelim finals. For those of you who guessed correctly and got it right with the predictions last week, your comments are on the screen right now. Scynsy, the only man to have got all 6 games of the finals right so far, so I'll be eager to see what he has to say. But let's get into the video. Let me know your predictions again in the comments down below. Of course, tonight I'll be at the footy between Richmond and Geelong. Massive game, of course. Winner goes through to the grand final. We're going to talk about the Collingwood Magpies and the Giants a little bit later on. But first game, massive 2 Melbourne sides battling it out. There'll be a chock-a-block crowd at the G. Maybe not quite a full house, but I think it'll be pretty close. And it should be quite an entertaining battle. We've seen Geelong's best has arguably been some of the best football this year. And we know that the Tigers have been, probably the most consistent side over the last 3 years. This will be their 3rd consecutive prelim final. And I'll be hoping that they do quite a good job. Obviously, Dustin Martin just having an absolute ping from about 100 metres out. Getting that one through. No, it's about 60 out. But still, massive game tonight. No Tom Hawkins for Geelong. They elected to not appeal the tribunal's 1-week suspension. So he will be out of the side. What do they look to do then? Do they put Harry Taylor forward? I've seen rumours this week that they might even put Lockie Henderson forward and play him. I'm recording this on the Thursday because I don't have time tomorrow, so I don't actually know the full teams when this video is being recorded, but I just wonder what Geelong are going to have to do in their forward line to be able to kick a winning score. Obviously, Hawkins was arguably the difference last week, took a number of contested marks, kicked 4 goals. Radaglia was also pretty good, but if he's not getting the same support and he is on like sort of a second on the best defender, then it'll be much more difficult for him to, I guess, play the way he just did. So that's obviously going to be the biggest thing for Geelong with Hawkins missing is, are they going to get enough supply? Well, they'll obviously get enough supply to their forward line, but will they get enough from their forward line to be able to win the game? Richmond have a number of good intercept markers. Grimes, Asprey, Vlosten, even Basher Hawley, very, very good. So that they can't be too predictable with their entries and just solely focus on Radaglia as the main target. They will be a little bit more unpredictable, I guess, without Hawkins in the side, but they will have to see, I guess, what their best point of call is to score. I feel if this game is a high-scoring game, Richmond will win the game. I sort of said it last week with the West Coast game. Geelong kept them to a low enough score, but Geelong only scored 80-odd points or whatever. Even if you go back to the qualifying final, the Tigers scored 100 points. I think they might have been the only team to do that, other than the Giants might have scored 100 points as well. Let me just go back here to the first week of the finals. Okay, so there was 3 teams that scored 100 points. West Coast and the Giants. So you can see their scoring capabilities. But in that first final, Geelong only scored 51 points. And last week, they scored 88. So they were a little bit more effective with their scoring going forward, but it is going to be a struggle for them if they are to win the game. I mean, in that game, they only conceded 61 points, so their defence held up strong, but you just wonder how well it's going to go against Richmond's chaotic ball movement with, Riewoldt and Lynch, Rioli, Castagna, even Dustin Martin could go in that forward line and really just create havoc for Geelong. So we know that they have the best defence this season from the season's numbers and things like that. So can they find a way to keep this Richmond forward line quiet and at least damage them the other way? It'll be interesting. We'll see how, because if you go back to 2017, Richmond had Townsend as the second tall forward. He was holding, I think, Taylor maybe accountable, kicked a couple of goals. So we'll see, now that Richmond do have those 2 genuine tall forwards, what they're going to do with the plan. It is going to be interesting, and even with Geelong's midfield, no Mitch Duncan. They sent Selwood in there last week. I thought he did a terrific job, so it is going to be great to see how Geelong sort of play that out with their midfield. I'd like to see Selwood in the middle again. He's such a hard nut. Gets busted open every other quarter he plays, and I just like the way he goes about his football. He's a very, very good player. Even Dangerfield, what are they going to do with him? Are they going to play him midfield? Are they going to play him forward? What is the plan with Patrick Dangerfield? Could he be the Dustin Martin of the first final, where doesn't get a lot of the ball but goes forward and he's a very damaging player? So it is all up in the air. It's going to be a very interesting prelim final. Last time they played, of course, in the finals, the Tigers beat the Cats in that 2017 qualifying final. I remember that night like it was yesterday. It was fantastic. But I think this is going to be a much closer encounter than that one was. I think it'll probably be within 2 to 3 goals. The margin at the final sort of result. Geelong will be eager to continue their run this year. The Tigers will be eager to avenge their prelim final loss of last year and really just put themselves into another grand final. What a grand final it could be if it is Richmond and Collingwood. Even Geelong and Collingwood, I think, would be a good grand final. We had that back in 2011. But I'm going to think the Tigers are going to run out winners here. I just think their scoring power and their quick ball movement will just be a little bit too much. I think if Geelong try to play too much into the Tigers' hands, even if Geelong turn it into a quick ball moving game, I don't really know how well that'll go for them. But I would like to see them move the ball a bit quicker. But if they do that slow and predictable game style, which has worked for them for majority of the year, I can't see it working against the Tigers because they've set up too well defensively, and it'll be very hard for Geelong to score, I think, especially in the ruckman. We didn't even talk about the ruckman. Geelong can't find one. Richmond have got 2 that are in pretty good nick. They got Soldo, who's been playing some of his best football, probably the best football of his career this year easily. And they've got Toby Nankervis, who's just come back into the side. He can play forward, take another tall out of the equation, and he can go into the ruck as well and really be a bull around the ground. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. The game, which has only got one prediction wrong so far, they got Geelong beating Collingwood wrong in the first final. I'm hoping they got this one wrong as well. They've got Geelong winning by 14. I reckon the Tigers by 3 goals at the end of the match, and they will go through to the grand final to play the winner of this match, Collingwood and GWS. Let's get right into that one now. It's going to be a massive game, I think, this one, because the Giants, we've seen them on prelim day twice in the past 4 years, or this will be the 3rd time, I guess, in the past 4 years, so 3 of the last 4. Last year, the only year they did not make it to the prelim final. They lost, I guess you could say, the corresponding game last year. They lost to Collingwood in the semi-final last year at the MCG in front of a packed, hostile crowd. So they're going to have to do it again against the odds in difficult circumstances. We saw them just win away in Brisbane, their first away win in a final in their club's history. And now we've seen, obviously, Collingwood, they beat Geelong in the first week. And they've got a couple of changes to make. DeGoey not playing, Greenwood not playing. And it's going to be interesting because the Giants love to tag players. Do you tag Pendlebury and Sidebottom? I think you send De Boer to Pendlebury. You send someone else to Sidebottom. Really make them earn their ball. And the Giants, I think, are much sneakier chance here than I think a lot of people anticipate. Obviously, no Toby Green, no Lockie Whitfield. Although there might be Toby Green, I don't know. There's an appeal happening tonight to determine whether or not Toby Green will be playing in this match for his, unreasonable contact to the face on Lockie Neal. So it is going to be tough to see, I guess, how that plays out and if he's going to get off. I'm not too sure. I don't think that the appeals generally go well, even if you've taken them this far, to be perfectly honest. So we'll have to wait and see on that, whether Green plays or not. I'd like to see him play, just because I'm sure the Collingwood fans would love to get stuck into him. But it is going to be an interesting encounter. Jeremy Cameron shapes as sort of the key player in this one, I reckon. The Cameron versus Moore matchup, if that is going to be the matchup, seems like it's going to be the most interesting one, because when Jeremy Cameron fires in a final, the Giants win games. When he doesn't play well in a final, they don't necessarily win games. Last week, I think he kicked 3. Finlayson had 2 or 3 as well. Himmelberg wasn't even really in the game too much last week. So, even if they don't get Cameron or Finlayson to fire, they've got that third string in. Himmelberg, who I would actually say is probably their second best forward after Cameron, who can still play very good. We've seen him kick 4 goals in a prelim final before, so he does know how to deliver on the big stage if required. Then you got Tomlinson, who could be playing as sort of that second ruck, sort of the Sean Grigg-esque role of 2017, with Mumford as the main man and Tomlinson sort of another midfielder, but a ruckman as well at the same time. And it's going to be a big challenge for them because they're coming up against Brodie Grundy, who is in very, very fine form. All-Australian ruckman this year. And it's just going to be a big challenge, I think, for the Giants to how they handle Grundy in the ruck. Because even if they take out, say, Pendlebury and Sidebottom by tagging them, depending, they'll limit their influence however much. But Grundy is almost a midfielder in his own right because he's just that good at winning the football. So if Grundy wins a lot of the football and wins clearances for Collingwood, it's going to be very tough to see them losing this game. They've still got damaging players, Treloar, Adams. They're very, very good players. And the interesting one is, of course, is Ben Reid going to play? If he does play, how well is he going to play? Because we've seen him come into this Collingwood side with a stack of inconsistencies. If he's now the key forward, up forward, what does that do to their forward line? They've had a lot of success with Stevenson, Elliott and De Goey sort of playing out of the goal square. If all of a sudden it becomes Ben Reid, is it going to be as successful for their forward line? Are they still going to score the same sort of amount that they have been scoring with those smaller type, hybrid players? It's all sort of up for debate, and it makes for what is going to be a very interesting contest. And that's what I think the beauty of this final series is compared to our previous final series, I think, is that every single game stands on its own merit. There's no game you looked at and said, this is going to be an easy win and either way. The only real game we sort of thought that was going to happen was West Coast and Essendon, and it ended up happening. But every other game has just thrown up a little spanner here or there that has changed things around. People thought West Coast would beat Geelong last week. People thought the Brisbane Lions would beat the Giants, and both, while they were both, I guess, the somewhat favourites in some people's eyes, they were both, genuine upsets as well in others. So I guess that's what makes this final series just so interesting. Collingwood have kicked 7 in a row to win this game by 17 points. The game has predicted the Pies by 17. I reckon they're going to win just by 2 goals. I think it'll be a pretty close game. I think Giants will be up in their noses in this match all the way to the end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you get it right, I'll tell you in the grand final preview next week. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy today's video. And have a good one. I hope your team wins on the weekend, except if it's Geelong. I hope Geelong lose, because I'm a Tigers fan. So, I hope the games are really good and exciting. But otherwise, I will see you guys later. Goodbye.